I wish I had a job so I could afford energy drinks.
That's going to be the opening. You just saying, I wish I had a job.
You need to include so I can afford energy drinks.
So I can
That
afford
has
energy
to be.
drinks.
Yeah. Just the opening is just being, I wish I had a job so I could afford energy drinks.
You say that, yeah, I'm recording it already, so I'm more than happy to include that as the opening.
Go nuts.
Oh, amazing. And I just burnt my thought on my tea. Every time we've done these, I've made sure to use the steam thermos flask that we got given.
Same.
As well. Yeah. Literally, my tradition for these is I'll whack my Sentinels hoodie on, I'll make a cup of tea in the steam flask that we got given, and just roll on from here. And it's a great flask, actually, because it's like, it keeps it so warm for so long. Like, it does last a full episode easily.
It's an actual Yeti mug. I got a similar one from Amazon when I was doing stuff for AWS. These mugs are so good, dude. The steam one's fantastic. I put like ice water in it, and I came back like 6 hours later, and it was still cold. It was like, okay, I don't know how that works. That is a marvel of engineering, but I do enjoy that 6 hours later, my cold water is still cold.
I don't even know how, like, if they still actually produce these. Do you know? Or are these just like back stock?
I think they selectively make them. I feel like they'd make them for staff, right? Because there's Steam staff. There's like Valve staff overall, and there's people like the people we met up with who.
I don't know. I think Alden's now mostly Steam team, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, he is. He's Steam lead.
Oh, does he not do anything else outside of Steam?
No, that was what he was saying. He's like basically the lead. That's why he had all those things made that he was showing us when we were there, that I'm deliberately not explaining because this might be used in the pod. He was doing all that because he basically, as far as I'm aware, manages the team, which was like, oh, we're with like the head honcho of the Steam team. Like, oh, are we wasting your time? Have you got stuff to be doing? Are you okay with this? Is this cool?
No, it was lovely. It was lovely. They are very nice. I mean, even the bag, because I mean, I did a office clear out like maybe a month ago, and I've got the bag that we got given, because I've got a couple of hooks, because I used to have like a whiteboard up in the office here, but then I just didn't use it because I found using like Google Calendar, Google Tasks, and all that much easier and more. What's the word? Organizable. There's a better word for organizable. I'll just stick with it. Organizable, and I'm thinking, I want this bag somewhere, so I've literally just got the bag hung up, and I forgot it said on the back, I visited Valve, everybody was really nice, especially the people who gave me this free stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the Steam Sentinels podcast, episode number 3. I don't have a title for it yet. I'll come up with that later. I am joined by... never mind, I'm joined by... I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Mellow Online. Hello, I hope everyone is doing A-OK. I will first off start with an apology, because I am still ill. Well, I say still ill. I recovered about midway through the week, and then I became ill again, and then it got worse. And today is kind of like the start of my recovery, but I'm still not 100%, so you will have to contend with my ill voice again for another week. I am joined by my two lovely, sexy co-hosts. First of all, Ratchet. I'm going to go in no particular order, so please don't take this as preferential. Ratchet, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Are you going to do an impression of me every time?
No. It was just so tempting.
I was very proud of myself last week for the opening that I put on of you, because I didn't hear you do the opening mock-up of my voice last week, but then when I was going through your individual audio file, I heard it and like, oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, I've shot myself in the foot there, to be fair.
Yeah. And I'm also joined by Sir Violent Death. Hello.
SVD will remember this.
Oh shit! I've
no
got
preferential with no particular order.
No particular order.
It's always the Australian that goes before me.
What can I say? As OnlyFans is better than yours. I'm sorry.
No one cared for hairy Italian legs. I get it.
No. Well, maybe it's a niche that clearly must need filling. So yes, welcome to episode 3. We are going to be talking about. There's a few things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be going through our new section, a comment comeback segment, where we're going to be picking out a random comment across one of our social medias, whether that be on YouTube, on Steam, on Discord, on X, on Blue Sky, on anything that we're on, and we're going to have a discussion about it and talk about it. But today the two main topics are going to be, we're going to talk about the Xbox Game Pass price rise that happened, and we're also going to be talking about a game called Hotel Barcelona on Steam, which has gotten itself in some hot water recently over criticisms about their failure to be transparent about their use of AI in the game. We're going to be talking about a bit more regarding the use of AI to make video games and the necessary disclosures involved with that, all for you here on our 3rd episode of the podcast. But first of all, Ratchet, what have you been playing this week? What have you been up to?
I have been, much to the dislike of the other people on my little indie team, I've been writing my own game engine, and I have been playing the heck out of Battlefield 6. I was going to swear, but I feel like probably keep it chill. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 6 since it released yesterday. The campaign's pretty good. There's a few little bugs here and there, but it's fun. It's nice to be able to go back to Battlefield and play a campaign.
I don't think I've played a Battlefield game since maybe Battlefield 4? And when was that? 2014? 2013?
I think so, yeah. I can't remember when it released. I recommend Battlefield 6. It's very much like Battlefield 4.
Okay. What is it like? Is it in beta at the moment? Is it released?
No, it's out, yeah. So it was in beta a couple of months ago. Yeah, and we spent all weekend playing it. I had a friend who realized that you could essentially just, the moment you get a tank, as long as you have people repairing you, you are a god for that amount of time. So he would just tank kill everyone and end up first on the leaderboard. But yeah, it came out the 11th in Australia. I think the 10th most other places in the world. And yeah, we've just been playing the hell out of it.
Incredible. Thank you very much. S3D, how are you? What have you been up to? What's going on in your life?
My kitchen sink's backed up Thursday night.
Your sorry, what? Your kitchen
sink's backed up. Yeah. So I live in like a condo, and on the ground floor, and the problem is that if people above me throw just dump all like their oils and fats and stuff down the drain, it tends to get clogged up in the main line, which I'm connected to, and it's also my line's the first, the first one there, or the first one connected to it. And so what happens is that once that gets clogged, the water starts to back up into my sinks. So I had to call. It's happened before. It happened earlier this year, which makes this doubly frustrating, because it usually happens around the cold months, but it's not cold, and it happened. Part of the reason, though, I think, is because I've been out of hot water for the past month and a half. I mean, I have it now, but and because of that, because hot water helps kind of melt the congealed like fats and stuff stuck in the pipe, and take care of that. So I had to pay a plumber essentially $400 to fix this. However, I should hopefully be getting compensation from the HOA for this, because this is, the problem was technically not in my unit. It's part of the common place or whatever. So I'll be emailing them with the invoice, and hopefully they'll cut me a check. If not, I'll have to, I guess, take the hit and try to do something else about it in the future. As far as what I've been playing, though, so past like yesterday, I started picking up where I left back off with Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, as well as playing Warframe, and I was also playing Company of Heroes 1.
Kingdoms of Amalur, that sounds familiar. Is that an RPG from like
Yeah,
2000 and something,
yeah. If I
2012.
remember, it was a studio that was like Rhode Island or something like that, I think, and some sports player I think funded
Oh
the studio
yes,
and whatnot.
I remember this because the studio went bankrupt, didn't they?
Yep.
Shortly after the game came out, because it was I mean, it got received well critically, but it didn't get the sales it was hoping for.
Which is unfortunate because it's good.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember watching
had
footage.
they had I think the proper, um, the proper marketing and whatnot, I think it would have been successful, monetarily.
I do remember it because I kept on getting that game mixed up with Dragon's Dogma, which is also really good. Um, Although I think the console ports were a bit underwhelming, but when it came to PC, they like redid a few things, and it got much better received when it came to PC. I'm trying to think if I've played anything this week. I'm not sure if I have. I might have. Oh no. I have. I revisited Fallout 3 for the 100th time. Um, but I realize the more times I go back to 3, I always enjoy the idea of playing it more than I do when I'm actually playing it, because I so hope Bethesda make a remake of it, because the game is so dated now, I feel, and it's so rough around the edges, and the more you keep playing it, the more you just feel the game's gonna combust on itself, because it's like the AI freaks out for like no reason. I got stuck in a glitch yesterday when I was playing it, where people that have played it will know. There's an area in the game called Grey Ditch where there's like a bunch of fire ants that breathe on you, and I was just passing by. I was quite a low level character. I was like only level 3 or something, and I was trying to kill a bunch of these ants, and I got them down to like 1 HP, 2 HP, and they just would not die. And I just kept on hitting them, but they got stuck at like 2 HP. I'm like, why aren't you dying? Give me the XP, and then I burned to death. It's like, fuck this, and then it pushed me back to my autosave, which was like 30 minutes beforehand. It's like, fuck. So then I haven't picked it up since, because I've fell out with the game, unfortunately, and we're not on speaking terms anymore.
The Bethesda sandbox titles can have some really odd and bugs and glitches. In New Vegas, I think one of the funniest ones and strangest ones I've encountered is that there's like a marked location on the map, and it's supposed to essentially have like three cazadors. They're like these giant tarantula fly um things that are very very scary because they fly fast and can and low levels you'll die from the poison from them. And there's supposed to be three of them around there, and then there's supposed to be a bunch of like dead bodies, as well as some items and whatnot. And when I first played Fallout first, what the fuck am I talking about? No, Fallout New Vegas for like the first time, and I got to that location. Uh, there were none of those flying things. Now I didn't know this at the time. Um, or no, I went there. There were the flying things. I killed them, and I'm like, huh, that's weird. There's like there's particle effects that simulate like flies that would appear over dead bodies. I'm like, are there supposed to be dead bodies here? So then I go and I reload to that location, and the dead bodies are now there, but they've gotten up and start attacking me. They're not supposed to. It's not. They're not zombies. They just suddenly start attacking you, and it's
Well, the annoying thing is, there's like loads. Like, I think what happened with your game on the first instance, because it's something I found in 3 as well, the bodies will spawn under the ground. And then, like in Megaton, like the first city that you come across, there's a really annoying bug where sometimes characters will just fail to load into the game. And what they'll do is they'll spawn them out of the sandbox of the like location. They'll spawn them like out of the limits, and then they're just stuck there. And the only way you can do it is if you've got a PC, you put in a console command to turn the collision off, and then you just walk over to the NPCs out of bounds. But if you're on a PS3 or an Xbox 360, you're fucked.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because the thing is too is that most people tend to agree that the combat in, let's say, Skyrim, uh way better than the combat in Oblivion. But the
Oblivion's are just floaty as
quests
hell.
but the quests are more interesting in Oblivion than they are in Skyrim. And the same can be said for Fallout 4 versus Fallout 3. Combat in Fallout 4 is a lot more fun than combat in Fallout 3 is. But there's more interesting stories in world than in Fallout 4.
Mm. Have either of you played the original two Fallouts?
I have
Or
not,
the
but
original or the original two Elder Scrolls, like Arena and Daggerfall?
I've watched at least the cutscenes for the first and second Fallout games because I was curious about the story.
I've played a little bit of all of them, but not enough to be classified as playing them. It's like what you said about. I think SVD said it about Borderlands 3. He's like, I played 5 minutes of it. I played like 5 minutes of all of them, and it's. I think I played about half an hour of Fallout 1, and I was like, yeah, this isn't a game for me. Like, it hasn't aged fantastically, which I know is heresy to say, but I just can't get into it.
I've never really touched Fallout 2, and I haven't played Fallout Tactics either. Actually, that was their weird fucking combat tactical shooter that they made, like in the interim between Interplay stopping the development of the main series, and then they made Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which the less said about that, the better. But Fallout 1, I do have a soft spot for, even though, like you said, it is quite dated. But in a weird way, I think it's aged better than Fallout 3 has. I don't know what it is about it, but I feel like it's got such a more like gameplay wise, it's less janky than Fallout 3. It's more concise, I suppose.
To be fair to it had a whole engine and everything written for it, and it was the first in it wasn't even in a series as far as I'm aware when they made it. I could be wrong. I haven't.
It stemmed from the Wasteland game. I can't remember how much they were involved in that, but the idea came about from a game called Wasteland that was in 1988, I think.
Which has since had like 2 remakes.
It's had a sequel, and the sequels had a remake.
Sequels.
Oh, yes, Wasteland 3. I forgot that came out.
Crowdfunded. Wasn't it? Like wasn't one of them like crowdfunded?
Yes, I want to say yes. I think.
Yeah, I think the first one being remastered was crowdfunded. Or the second one. I think it was the second one.
I think it was the second one. I think it was the second one.
Yeah, it's like Fallout 3 is a product of the Gamebryo engine, which the Creation engine. I want to get into tech stuff, but it's really kind of just hindered them the entire development of every game they've ever worked on, even Starfield.
What a gem that is. I've never played it, so I can't comment about it, but I rarely hear anyone say anything good about it.
It's stable, which is a good thing to say about it. The problem is that seems to be like where all the effort went into. They made it stable, and then effort for everything else was bland as shit. There might be one set of cool armor in the game, because it's all meant to be space stuff. And I mean, if you're into space stuff, like NASA, spacesuits and whatnot, great, but a lot of us aren't.
Yeah, the stability unfortunately comes at the cost of not being a particularly open world game, which people really didn't like given the previous titles Bethesda has released. So they put a bunch of stuff in a bunch of levels, then they're like, oh, this is crashing quite a bit, so they shrunk the levels down and added loading screens everywhere.
Well, and the problem is that you can't have like the fun dumb stories about, like, for instance, in Oblivion, being chased across the map by an enemy, right? If there were a bunch of loading screens in there, it probably wouldn't have happened, right? Um, so the idea that I could be chased by some tough enemy across in Oblivion and go to like in front of like one of the towns or castles, and the guards dealing with said enemy is hilarious, right? But you can't do that if you've got all these loading screens in there. um the other thing too is that people like that seamless transition from an area, and the idea that when you're walking on, let's say, a road in Skyrim, you can see on your mini map, the locate, like a dungeon location or like a town or whatever, all these kind of landmarks and whatnot, and it's seamless, right? There's not an actual loading screen for each like section of the map. It might be loading stuff in the background, but a lot of times you may never notice it, depending on how much foliage is covering it.
Speaking of seamless transitions with no loading screens, let's get into our first topic. And yes, please do praise me for that fantastic segue in the comments. This is a new segment that we're going to start up called Comment Comeback. So this is a comment that we'll have lifted from social media somewhere. Could be YouTube, could be Steam, could be Discord, could be anywhere that we are on. And it's discussing any topics we might have raised last week, or it could be a topic that we might not have talked about. We just thought, hey, this is interesting to highlight. And this is a comment that I have foregone to actually copy over. Here it is, actually, from Pink Pony, who commented on our recent article talking about Polish art prices, which was in the previous episode. Please do check that out, episode number 2 of the Steam Sentinels podcast. So Pink Pony put a comment on saying, would it help if Steam had its own currency or token system? It seems like prices are manually set as opposed to being a literal reflection of the currency value. So let's say a game was priced at 1,000 SteamBux and £1 bought 105 SteamBux, 100 yen bought 50 SteamBux, whatever. This could give day-to-day regional pricing to the currency while keeping the cost of games consistent. Of course, this would mean the value of your wallet changes too, depending on when you bought the Steam currency, but at least Steam wouldn't have to manually set the price of games per region if that is what they do. Thank you very much, Pink Pony, for that comment. It is interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment at the very least. I remember when the story about the credit card companies, Visa and MasterCard, were going on with Steam, asking them to take down a bunch of adult games. That was something that I talked about on social media, where instead of having the payments being processed through someone like Visa and MasterCard, Steam could adopt their maybe own currency to try and circumvent some of that. But I'm keen to hear your guys' thoughts. Ratchet, go wild on this. Go wild.
So the first reason I think Steam would never do something like this is because it means that they would then have to register that as a currency or as like a virtual currency in the same way that cryptocurrency works. And I'm not saying Valve are lazy, I'm just saying they don't want to work on stuff like this that would take extra effort and time and require them to hire more people on to deal with stuff like this. I also think just in general it's not a great... I like the concept of the idea, but I don't like the idea because it then splits up... Sorry, it splits it up, right? So you have your Steam wallet anyway that has your currency in it. I'm trying to think. I don't like the idea. I like the thought of the idea, but I think implementation-wise and actually putting it on Steam and being an actual currency is a bad idea, and it would just serve to make another green light. It would make people... It's going to give bad actors the ability to do more bad shit, I think. Basically, I think the way Valve works these days is any way that any person who can game the system can benefit, they're trying to keep away from. So systems like this, they're not going to implement. Like the trading cards, they've had to pull back from, and all those other cool systems because of stuff like this.
When you say it could be abused by bad actors, are you kind of thinking where if these, like, we'll just stick with the name SteamBux, Pink Pony's coined it, do you think that if SteamBux were brought in to, say, the Steam Community Marketplace, it could be abused in some way in terms of its listings from developers, like, I don't know, suggested pricing or stuff like that? Like, how do you think that system could be abused?
Yeah, look, I can't give exact details because I can't directly think of a way they could abuse this system that doesn't exist yet. But the way I'm thinking
And
about
hasn't
it,
even been
like,
talked about until now.
yeah, yeah. The way I'm thinking about it is like they would do what people do with Steam keys, where like if you go on those weird sus sites to buy Steam keys, they give you like physical Russian copies where they paid the developer like $5 per game and they sell it to you for $20 US. It'll be the same thing as that, where they like find the cheapest way possible to get SteamBux, and then they resell it to you for double the price, which is still like a quarter of what Steam is charging. And then but you have to do something for them, or there'll be like a weird rip-off version of Gleam for earning SteamBux. Just there's going to be ways people abuse this system to give themselves and other people money. There'll also be people directly trying to give themselves money through Steam. Like, the first thing that's going to happen is hackers are going to try and find ways around it to give themselves money without having to pay Steam or Valve.
And I guess as well, I will come to you, SVD, but the idea, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. The idea I really, really like, and I think, going back to the Visa and MasterCard thing, it could have been effective and something could have worked out. I know that people like Elon Musk are on about making their own currency to try and circumvent something like that. But in terms of the Polish R prices issue, I'm not sure if something like this would help the matter. Because if you're, like you say, if you're registering your own currency that's tied to a global economy, that's trying to meet the values of loads of different currencies in the world, that's something I think is really difficult to implement. And I think the regional pricing system, even though it's got its flaws, I think what Steam really need to do to just get the grips with it is just to do their annual reviews that they originally pledged to do in the first place. I don't think we need to make a new currency to fix that issue. Other issues, maybe it's a conversation worth happening, potentially. I don't think it's maybe something that should be dismissed from the get-go. But like you say, there's a lot of foolproofing that might need to go into place. SVD, what are your thoughts?
I'm not even sure if there's anything left for me. You guys covered the shit that I would say. Yeah, well, fuck it. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna swear. It's okay. You can bleep it out. I mean, at the risk of essentially repeating everything, yeah, bad actors would abuse the hell out of another currency, and as Ratchet pointed out, it might be something else that would need regulation as well. And I mean, for Valve to dedicate personnel to dealing with that, and then not only to dealing with that, but then have to worry about bad actors manipulating that. Which and here's the thing: bad actors already manipulate a Steam currency in a way. A few of them, Steam keys in general, right? But all I did was just pop open my iPad on a tab here, and there's a topic that was started in April of this year. What's the best way to top up your Steam balance in Russia in 2025? It says, how can I buy a game in Steam on Steam in Russia right now? Paying for a game on Steam directly with a Russian card isn't possible, but that doesn't mean the purchase is impossible. I'll share proven ways to bypass restrictions and top up your Steam balance quickly and easily. And the number one thing is topping it up with TF2 keys. So, in a way, there's already something like that that exists, albeit unofficial. Because how else are people based in Russia going to buy stuff? They can't do it directly on Steam anymore. So the first suggestion is buying TF2 keys. The second suggestion, or not second, but the fifth suggestion here, because I can't read the other two, is activating Steam gift cards. So essentially, there is already like manipulation of stuff that happens here. Plus, even if, let's say, Valve went ahead with a SteamBux thing, right? If the value changes, right, based off your currency, imagine you put $10 in and you bought a game, but you want to have it refunded. That $10 might not be worth $10 anymore when they refund you, depending on your currency's fluctuation,
Yeah, because the
right?
fluctuations happen daily as well.
Yeah, so it could be that okay, you paid $10 worth of Steam currency, and let's say you wanted to get that refunded back to your card, right? Because you realized that you had couldn't afford the Steam game or whatever. Um, and okay, and we'll do a bigger and more typical amount. Let's say you paid $70 for a Steam game, right? Didn't like it, whatever, and you only get $60 back or 50, right?
Correct me
Um,
if correct me if I'm wrong, but with the Steam gift cards, you can't refund them, can you? Once you bought them, that's final, is it?
that I don't know.
I'm sure there's something like that in where you
I'm
can't refund
guessing
gift
it would.
cards.
You probably can't like refund it back to the original card, but I'm guessing it would just stay as in Steam currency or your Steam wallet is my guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a couple more issues that's like springing to mind for me there, because like you've got some like more legal and tax complications regarding something like that being implemented. Um,
It would also go into the and this was something that my mom was interested in years ago, which is currency trading. Which is you're essentially working on getting a gain by investing or buying different currencies, and when their stuff goes up, you essentially make money. Um, and so it's just there's all kinds of complications with this. Um, it just needs to be something that Valve updates, hopefully once a year, for every currency. If not, once every 2 years.
well, again, they said in their blog post it would be annual, and I think that makes sense because then they've got a long term means of analysing how the currency is performing, but then it's also not leaving consumers out of pocket and paying too much, like what's happening in Poland. Um, but yes, thanks once again, Pink Pony, for your comment. If you want to have a comment of yours discussed on the podcast, put a comment onto one of our social medias, either in the comment section here or in our Steam Sentinels group page as well, or on X, or on Blue Sky, or on Discord, wherever you can find us. And we might pick it out to have a discussion about the start of the episode next week. So, going on to one of our two main topics, we are going to talk about the Xbox Game Pass price rise. SVD, do you want to lead this topic? Because this was something that you proposed us talk about at the end of last week's episode.
Yeah, so I play Warframe with some buddies of mine on Xbox. They're on Xbox, I'm on PC, and they mentioned a few weeks ago about the price hike, and I started to look at it, and I was also kind of shocked. So when game and I even have an article and a chart here. I'll post in chat to show the rise of the rising cost. Um, so Game Pass Ultimate was already so last year. So Game Pass Ultimate, which is the highest tier of Game Pass subscription, in which you get like day one releases on Xbox. So when that first launched in June 2019, it was $14.99 a month. Then they did their first price hike to $16.99 a month in 2023. And then they did their second hike in 2024 by raising it to essentially $20 a month. And then this year, starting this month, they raised it to $30 a month. Which that's quite each gap gets each jump is bigger than the last. And to be honest, at this point, it's essentially 100% of the original price. And people are not happy with this because, well, the thing is that a lot of the games on Game Pass, there's a good chance that they've probably played before. Even with Microsoft saying, "Hey, we've added Ubisoft Classic," not even the whole Ubisoft Plus, but just Ubisoft Classic. A lot of people have played the Assassin's Creed games. Then they added Fortnite stuff. So the only appeal to me is if perhaps it's a family that in which like each like generation, uh, each kind of age group has a different gaming habit where you have like 10-year-olds that play Fortnite and you've got a 16-year-old that plays Assassin's Creed and I don't know, the adult plays Call of Duty, right? That might be the only like demographic or household I can see, that working in. Um, but it's not worth it to other people. Like to put this into perspective, the $30 a month thing, that's $360 a year. That's a lot of money for to not own any games. And on top of that, when you think about the appeal of Game Pass, it depends on what's being offered, which also depends on uh, the health of the industry, for lack of a better word, the interest that people have in the games, and that are currently either popular or essentially in like circulation. And you might have some good ones out there, and some years are good, some years are bad. Um, like we have some good titles this year, but the next question is how many of those are going to be on Game Pass?
I was just going to say, so when I was reading an article about this a few days ago, Microsoft said that the price rise was to reflect, quote, new content value in the Game Pass. Do either of you have Game Pass or F3D? If you have friends that have Game Pass, has there been anything changed about Game Pass that's maybe increased the content value at all in the last year, 2 years?
Not according to them, no. The thing is that the only thing that Microsoft managed to do was kind of tack on this Fortnite subscription thing and Ubisoft Classic. But that was in response to the backlash of the price hike.
Yeah, and you would have thought, because Microsoft clearly have, well, from what I've experienced in the past, they've got some pretty good PR reps working there. So you would have thought that if they had something like that up their sleeve that they were going to deploy, and they would have known that something like this might have generated some headlines of the price has gone up, that they would have put something like that out promptly, and they'd have included that in the initial announcement. To kind of cushion the blow of a higher price. Ratchet, what are your takeaways?
When I bought my Xbox about 6 months ago, I got a sub to it. Even then, I thought it was a little expensive because it was about, I think it was 30 Australian dollars then. It might have been a little cheaper. I didn't pay attention to it. But yeah, it's really showing. Same with what you included with the Netflix comparison. It's really showing how well all these streaming platforms are doing with their services. It's showing what happens when you give people the ability to watch stuff without just paying for the thing, especially when you don't give people the option to pay for the thing. It's showing what's happening. It's a complete clusterfuck of they need to make money because, like, especially Netflix. Remember when Netflix was doing really well and it had some great shows like Daredevil and The Punisher, and then they had to pull out of all those shows because they were pouring millions into them, and then realized that the amount of money they were making off all of their subscribers wasn't enough to fund like 4 multi-million-dollar consistent television series. It's a thing. It's very weird. I don't know how long streaming services are going to last. I think they're going to push it until there's nothing left, and I don't know what happens then, but I'm very interested to see.
Well, the thing is as well, like, companies do just adapt over time, and with Netflix have had blows in the past, and then people keep on saying, like, maybe once a year, once every 2 years, that Netflix is dying, but they're still the largest media streaming giant in the world at the minute.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder what Disney's numbers are, because I feel like Disney has a more loyal fan base, especially since it owns so much IP now.
They probably do. Last I checked, Disney Plus had the third highest behind Netflix and Amazon Prime, but obviously Amazon Prime includes like your Prime subscribers that don't use Prime Video.
Yeah.
But it's hard for them to get optics on how many of those Prime users watch Amazon Prime Video. But on paper, Prime's bigger than Disney, but smaller than Netflix.
Don't know. Oh yeah, September 2022. Netflix, Prime, Spotify, Disney Plus, Tencent Video. Okay. Tencent Music Entertainment, Apple Music.
China.
Yeah, I mean, Tencent is a global conglomerate at this point.
The one thing, kind of, because I don't really have much else to say about this, I'm interested in what you two think, but the one thing I have to give Microsoft is I will give them, in terms of Game Pass, from a developer's point of view, they were I think they are still very happy to help indie developers by giving them, I don't know if they're Game Pass exclusive deals. I'm not sure what the actual behind the scenes is there, but they're happy to pay developers, much like Epic was, to, as long as you get a deal with them, they'll fund a good percentage of your game's development. So, and I mean, the other thing is a lot of people have Game Pass. Well, up until now, a lot of people had Game Pass subscriptions. So you basically got your game in the hands of a ton of people very early, very quickly. So it was kind of a good thing, but I also think streaming services for games are not a good thing in general. You don't see returns in the long run as a developer.
It's I've got a few things to talk about there. When you mentioned the Epic and Microsoft comparison, I think you kind of hit on a point that I was going to make there, in that the difference to me in both of those scenarios is Epic at the very least are driving consumers to their store with the free games that they give away once every week, once every 2 weeks, and it's encouraging people to go, whereas Microsoft seem to be going in the other direction, where pricing your Xbox Ultimate Pass up isn't really going to entice people to come and look at the indie devs or give indie games that are in that pass the later day, because now it's suddenly too pricey. So then indie devs will now, as a result, see a drop off in that return. Whereas with Epic have been doing pretty okay for themselves from what I can see, because their store's gradually been improving over time. They've been adding in more features. They've been making a bit more of a lucrative deal for themselves. But then, what? There was another point that you mentioned at the end, Ratchet. What was the last thing you said?
We're gonna have to go back. I can't remember. It was. I think it was the part.
You talked about indie devs and being on Game Pass, right?
Yes, it was about streaming for games. I think it's difficult. I think it somewhat works for film and TV because the budgets aren't, or they might not be quite as high. But yeah, Netflix and Prime and all them can get away with lower prices for the consumer, and then there's like you say, streaming has a much worse return for the creator. Whereas with games, you have such higher budgets and so many more team members working on them nowadays, because it's one of the most highest returning entertainment spheres. And I think part of it is because they've experimented with streaming services for games before, like Google Stadia, and PlayStation tried. Was it PlayStation Now?
Yeah, they're still doing
that. They had. I thought it got discontinued.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's still going. They might have discontinued it, but I think it's part of PS
I enjoyed PlayStation Now, for what it was, because I mean it was pricey. It was like £20 a month, but I had like a near infinite. Yeah.
Sorry, apparently it doesn't say when it died, but it was shut down in 2022. I thought it was still going. My bad.
Yeah, I remember playing like BioShock Infinite and that on PlayStation Now. So like I think that there is a way to do it, but I don't think we're at the stage yet where it's ready to be welcomed. I think it would be something that would disproportionately benefit the consumer perspective of the games are cheap, they're a bit more accessible, you've got a massive library that you can just access at any point rather than going out and buying a cluster of games. But then, like you say, there's a worse return for the developer and the publishers. Well, publishers I feel a little bit less sorry for, but
Yeah.
SVD, what are your takes? Oh, sorry, yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna quickly say, yeah, it's a thing with like, I can't talk about specifics about myself, and I think I can generally talk about specifics from other developers, but like, long story short, the returns indie developers have seen from releasing on Steam versus releasing on Games Pass, they've seen a much better return on Steam, and I don't know who's... It's not anyone's fault, but I don't know who's like the primary reason for that. I'd be interested, because I don't want to cut ties with Microsoft, because I'd love to release games on Xbox. I plan to release my game on Xbox, but
I put a screen cap of what a dev pointed out in terms of unfavorable things about being an indie dev and teaming up with Microsoft for Game Pass. If you want to take a look.
So a developer posted in a forum called "For Developers, Game Pass is the worst thing to happen."
This was on NeoGAF, by the way.
On what, sorry?
NeoGAF.
On NeoGAF. So the users posted called PJX. They've put, as a developer, Game Pass doesn't benefit studios the way it was promised. Developers were told that putting their games on Game Pass would lead to increased sales through greater exposure, but that hasn't worked out as expected. Talking to a few developers that I know, they stated that while the initial spike in visibility was noticeable, it hasn't translated into the kind of long-term sales growth they were led to believe. Instead, players seemed content to engage with their games on the service and then move on to the next title, leaving traditional revenue streams stagnant. Does Game Pass harm developers in ways that are only becoming clear now? Unless Microsoft is doing a huge payout, a lot of indie developers I know aren't seeing reasons to release their games on the platform, and their payout has decreased dramatically since the buyouts. A studio I know sent the following assessment to me. Revenue uncertainty. Developers often rely on upfront sales for predictable revenue. Game Pass shifts this model to a subscription-based payout, which can be inconsistent and tied to engagement metrics rather than actual game purchases. This leads to financial uncertainty for studios, especially indie developers. Devaluation of games. That's an interesting point, actually. Devaluation of games. With so many titles available for a low monthly fee, the perceived value of individual games decreases. Consumers may become less willing to pay full price for games outside the subscription, creating a, quote, race to the bottom in pricing. Unsustainable expectations. Game Pass fosters a culture where players expect to access a large library of high-quality games at minimal cost. This places pressure on developers to lower prices or join the subscription service, often at unfavorable terms. Lack of long-tail sales. Titles on Game Pass may experience a surge in engagement initially, but suffer reduced long-term sales as players move to newer titles within the subscription. This affects studios that rely on steady income from evergreen titles. And last point there is, indie developers struggle. While exposure on Game Pass can boost visibility, many indie developers report that the revenue from the platform doesn't compensate for the loss of traditional sales. Additionally, it can be challenging for smaller games to stand out among a vast library. That's the end of the post. Yeah.
This is apparently a game dev somewhere around London, judging from the replies.
What's your kind of response to that, Ratchet, as another indie developer? Have you worked with any, well, I know you might not be able to disclose too much, but have you worked with any development teams that have released stuff through Xbox or Game Pass?
Not directly yet. I have I have friends who have released stuff through Games Pass. I haven't talked to them about it though. Based on the reception I got kind of from them regarding the initial setup with Microsoft, it was very positive. And the fact that they haven't talked about it yet or since says a lot. Because if you work with a platform and it works well, then you talk about it, right? I've had some interesting conversations about like companies like Nintendo and PlayStation, but it's very interesting. I haven't heard much about Xbox regarding it. From my point of view, as somebody who in the next year or so is going to be releasing a game, I would work with Xbox. I would not put it on Game Pass. I'm sorry to anyone who is interested in playing anything I release.
Where have you found them?
Hey, what, the people who want to play
Where have you found them?
Hopefully through here. Hopefully through this. Why do you think I'm here? It's only for myself. No. But yeah, it's a thing of like, yeah, it's not profitable. I don't think a streaming service platform for video games will ever be profitable. I think as well, if you look 10 years ago in the film industry when Netflix was kind of pushing to be at the forefront of filmmaking, people didn't like it, and it was, showing negative returns for a lot of studios. Same with Spotify with music. Like, these streaming platforms, because they cost so much to run, they give the people who create the media such a small percentage of what they would be earning that, like, there's been like some really big musicians who have pulled their music off Spotify and off Apple Music and that, because the amount of money they get back is just nothing. And you'll see it happens as well with game developers, and I think it will happen with like shows. I think it does happen with shows on Netflix and that. They just go, you know what, we'll just release DVD copies, or we'll just put it up on our website. Like, there's a comedian, a couple of comedians I watch who released a special that was like a sketch show they did, and instead of going to Netflix or anything, they just put it up on their website for $10 a pop, and they make 100% of the income from that. And I was happy to pay 10. It was $10 US, so it was about 20 Australian. I was happy to pay that because I knew that they got all of that money, which means they'll probably do more of it.
Yeah. A lot can be said about this stuff. I know that we want to move on to the next topic, so hope maybe we can revisit this next time. But it seems like the whole subscription model, like, initially sounds like a good idea, but it feels like a gold rush, where when it first comes out, it seems great, but then as people get used to all the titles that are in circulation over time, and they get used to, I won't buy this game, I'll just play it on Game Pass, and then never pick it up again.
So sorry, I've got a question just kind of in response to what you just mentioned there, S3D. So Steam and EA house the EA Play subscription service. I have it, and I think it's ridiculously cheap. I think I only pay like £30 a year for it, and you get access to all of EA's library. Now, I know that that's technically not the same thing, but what's kind of the parameters with something that would be like that, where, because EA is basically giving, I think there's like 70 games that's included in EA Play, and they're giving them out for like £30 a year, which might be like $50, like the price of one game, like one new AAA game a year. How do they afford something like that?
I mean, it's their own brands, though. That's the thing. So, and that stuff kind of stays on there. So the scope, I feel like, is a lot easier to kind of guess and whatnot. And plus, um, they can use it more effectively to bring people into, let's say, buying the sequels, right? Where, let's say, they'll put Mass Effect 1 and 2 on their subscription, right? Again, this is an example. This didn't actually happen, right? They would put Mass Effect 1, 2 on their subscription thing, but Mass Effect 3, let's say it didn't release, what was it, 2012, 2013? Let's say it was going to, release, soon. That one wouldn't be on there. You would, essentially pay the subscription, play the first two games, and if you liked it, great. Then you would just, the idea is that they would hope that you would pay full price for the sequel, and they would not put that sequel in that subscription until a year or so afterwards, right? So that way they don't like gut the value or at least the perceived value of that sequel game. Whereas with Xbox Game Pass, it's not just the games and studios that they own, but also people that they have business partnerships with, and plus the games there's like a rotation, and so it's kind of like people go, they look, is there any games that I've played? No, whatever. And the thing with that is that, like, then people will use it like a glorified like renting thing. Where they'll just play something, and then when they're done, that'll be it. They won't really bother to go back to it or anything, um, which hurts studios because with some games, especially in the age of live services, um, or like in the age of or the payday 2 version of live service where they just keep putting out content packs, right? If people have uninstalled your game because whatever, who's gonna come around for that DLC, right? Whereas if someone's bought your game and they're more likely to purchase DLC for it than if they uh, played it on a subscription service.
Ratchet, do you want to chip in?
Yeah, I've just had a thought, not directly related to this. Apologize for that. But regarding people who can't afford it, it's something that was mentioned. I think especially it kind of pinged in my mind when you mentioned it was only £30 a year for EA Pass.
Mhm.
I think these
EA
streaming EA Play. I feel like an old person now. The tickety talks. Yeah, but I think it's a thing where people who can't afford to keep buying these games, like I was fortunately in a position where I was making enough money for my job that when a new game came out that I liked, even if it was like, full AAA price, I could still afford it if I wanted it. There are people out there that can't do that, and I think these subscription services help them out. It's about 60 Australian dollars, which is half the price of a brand new EA game in Australia.
Yeah,
so
and
I think it's
like 60 games. For
yeah,
year
if you're
access, which is ridiculous value.
If you're on like, let's be American, like if you're on $8 to $12 an hour, I don't know if that's reasonable or not. I feel like our prime minister, when somebody asked him how much milk was, and he's like, I don't know, it's $8. It's like, what? Yeah, but it's a case where I think somebody on minimum wage, especially in America, can afford. They want to go and play these games. They don't want to pay, $60, $70 for the you just mentioned the SVD, that RPG game.
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect, thank you. You don't want to pay like $80 or $70 for the Mass Effect collection. So you spend $60 and get all of that plus, the Medal of Honor games, plus the Battlefield games, plus all the other things they have on this. It's got a Steam page that I had open that I've accidentally closed. Here we go. Dragon Age, the latest Dragon Age, the new Dead Space remaster, or sorry, remake, kind of. It's a reboot. Command and Conquer, Star Wars Squadrons, all the Need for Speeds, all the Dirts, all of the Hazelight games. Which, if you and a friend, like, you don't even need a friend to own it. You just need to own the Hazelight games on Steam, like A Way Out and all that, and you can your friend can play it through you, and that is a hell of a time. I recommend that game so much. But yeah, I think the people that benefit from these are probably people who can't afford to buy games constantly on Steam. I think they're kind of a demographic that we've missed out on in this discussion.
If EA offered me a paid promo and I took it, would you both leave the podcast?
No, as long as we got a cut. We're gonna start doing what's it called? Better Health sponsorships.
Oh yeah, better.
What about Displate?
I have Displates. If Displates offered us a sponsorship, I'd take that.
I'm not gonna big anyone up without a sponsorship, but yeah, I've not. I don't own a Displate, but I have seen advertisements for it, and they look sick. They look so good and such good quality as well.
I will send a picture of my Displates that you can put on the pod, on the video for anyone watching. They look so nice.
Thanks, more work for me. You're so
seconds.
kind.
You're welcome. But yeah, not to big up any company, but yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, I think the biggest target, kind of getting back on track, is people who aren't going to. They look at their bank accounts and they look at like Battlefield 6 being, I guess, was it like $80 or $90 US? It's like 110 Australian dollars. I think it's $70, maybe 80. But anyway, don't know how much it is. If you look at that, then you look at your bank account, you're like, yeah, I'm going to have to save up for like 3 to 4 months to buy this game, or I'm going to have to dip into savings to buy this game. Versus if you just get a Game Pass subscription, which I think then that kind of is also leading back into the Microsoft discussion, where Microsoft has shot himself in the foot because they went from a nice, serviceable, a program, a subscription service that worked for people, that people were happy to pay money for. You know, you bought the Ultimate subscription pass, you got it on PC and on your console. You buy yourself an Xbox, you save up for a year or two, you buy yourself an Xbox. Again, I can't talk from this point of view because I'm in Australia where the minimum wage is different from America, but I'm trying to talk from an American point of view. But you save up, buy yourself an Xbox, then you get your Game Pass subscription. The amount of money you're earning per month from your job is enough to cover that Game Pass subscription. And then they double the price of it. It's like, okay, well now it's no longer feasible. It's not a thing I can afford. You've literally lost me because I cannot afford to keep this. Like, it was a nice addition to have, and you have now made it so expensive that I can't even justify buying it because I've got so much other stuff I have to pay for. Especially at the moment with the world being so, you know, all over the shop economically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a first. I've never heard an Australian be sat in a call with an American, and the Australian still acts as the one that's the American.
Well, no, I'm just trying to think about it from an American point of view, right? Because
yeah,
I can't really talk about, like, I can talk about it from the point of view on Australian, but I think our minimum wage at the moment is like $21 an hour versus I think most people working in hospitality, like servers and stuff, are on like $2 or $3 an hour, I think. Is that right?
in Australia?
No.
Oh, in America.
In the US, yeah.
How much were you saying that you thought the average wage was here?
The average wage for somebody working in hospitality, like a server or a wait staff, is like $3 an hour. It's something criminally low. It might not be the average,
and that's because of the tipping culture here.
Yes, yeah.
The idea that it gets supplemented with tips. So I stuck to mainly warehouse jobs. Like, I worked a little bit in like retail, but like years upon years ago. So I honestly wouldn't know what it is now.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I thought that, like, I mean, I know the minimum wage varies across the US from state to state, but, like, I was kind of looking and thinking that it was, like, between $12 and $15 an hour.
It's very low. I'll look it up while we chat, but I think...
Yeah. Do either of you... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just saying, from what I heard, it was, like, it was so disgustingly low that it was, like, you can't afford to live on that. Anyway, I'll look it up. We'll see how wrong I am.
Yeah, sure. Do either of you have anything else you want to add on about the Game Pass discussion before we move on to our last topic?
Not that I can think of.
No? Amazing. And I'll take Ratchet's silence as he's either too busy looking up... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The federal minimum direct wage for a tipped employee in the US is $2.13 per hour. And that's according to the US Department of Labor. Yeah, it's on the US Department of Labor.gov website.
That's like £1.70 here.
Yeah, minimum cash wage $2.13. Minimum tip credit against cash wage $5.12, and basic combined cash and tip minimum wage rate is $7.25. It changes per state, of course. In Alaska, it's $13. In Washington, it's $16.66 because they enjoy the devil. Joking.
To anyone working in hospitality in the US, I am very sorry.
Yeah, it's... The highest I saw was... Oregon is $15. California and Washington State are the highest I've seen at $16.50 in California and $16.66 in Washington. So yeah, everywhere else it varies. It's less than $10 in most places. So yeah, imagine being on that much of a wage and a company being like, okay, you know how you paid $15 for this thing? It's $30 now. you'd be like, right, well, even with all my tips and the amount of average money I earn per month, because it fluctuates per month, especially now with the economy being in such disarray, you're making less. Like, $30 Game Pass, it's going to be like, yeah, no, this was my lifeline. This is what I used to play games with my friends and have fun, and now I can't afford to do that anymore.
Okay. On that note, let's move on to our last topic, and we're going to talk about a game that I hadn't heard of until this week, until it got brought up on our Steam discussion forums, a game called Hotel Barcelona. So, Hotel Barcelona is a game made by Swery65 and Suda51, but it was found out that this game, after launch, had included AI-generated assets that were used in the game without prior disclosure. So, for a bit of context for our listeners, so Steam has had a bit of a complicated history with AI use in games. They initially, when AI was being used more to make games, Steam had a blanket no policy on it because they initially weren't too sure how they wanted to tackle it or where it was going, because they were concerned about it being used to generate harmful content. So they decided to just put a temporary blanket ban on any game that had AI content in the game, while they tried and figured out a bit more of a consistent policy that could be a bit more lenient but also had some safeguarding measures in place. That got relaxed, I think, maybe 6 months after the ban came in, and they said that they would allow pretty much almost any AI-generated game with a couple of exceptions. They wouldn't allow any... I'm going to use some poor terminology here, Ratchet, so please pick me up on it. Any AI-generated content that generates live content for adult games. So it wouldn't be something like where you would type in a prompt in the game and then you would get like a naked anime girl, because obviously there'd be concerns about exploitation or stuff I can't talk about here on YouTube. But then the second caveat was, if you did use AI in your game, you had to fill in an extra part on the store page, which was basically an AI content disclaimer, where you lay out how much AI was used in your game and in what capacity. So it could be, because I've seen some games on Steam disclaim that, hey, none of our game includes AI, but we did use AI to make some of the promo images that you see on the store page, or we used it to write the store page description. Or it can even go as far as, there was a game that you were trying out, Ratchet, recently, where it's like you play a shooter and there's a girl where you have like a live conversation with her or something like that.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
It was, I forgot we were playing that. Yeah. It was by a bunch of university students at the California, I think it was the University of Arts. I'll have to have a look. They keep releasing games on Steam that are free. Most of them are really good. That one was, the AI servers had been shut down, or they cost money now. So my first prompt worked. I opened my voice chat and said hello to it, and it replied, and then everything after that failed, including trying to get it to go on puzzles, and including the offline workaround they did for AI, where you just point at something and it runs an event for the NPC. All of that failed. The game is not playable at all in any state.
There is some games that are doing some interesting stuff with AI, because it's more those kinds of games that you explain, at least when they work, where it's like you've got a fully interactive like teammate that you can like command around using those kinds of prompts. But then obviously you also get games like your I can't say that word on YouTube, actually. The anime girl sliding puzzle kind of games, and they're just fully AI generated, because they were already quite cheap to produce anyway, but now they're even cheaper to produce now with artificial intelligence. But anyway, going back to Hotel Barcelona. So they included AI in the game, and some of the community had discovered that they were using AI, and it hadn't been disclosed, so the community were calling this out. They were doing some review bombs on the game. I think the recent reviews got as low as to about maybe 27% at one point, because the community just weren't happy with the lack of disclosure of the AI content, and there was surprisingly a lot of people that were just really against any... not that it was surprising that a lot of people were against AI, but more surprising that this game in particular had a lot of players that were really against AI, so much that when they found out, they actually refunded the game, because they just weren't a fan of the lack of transparency initially when they came to purchase it. So afterwards, a disclosure was added retrospectively from the either the developer or the publishers. I can't remember who. And like I mentioned, it is Valve policy to require all AI use to be declared on the store page. But I think with this case in particular, it can sometimes come at a bit of an inconsistency on Steam's point, because obviously Steam have honoured refunds to some users. So from what I can see, even if some users had about 6 hours in, Steam honoured the refund because they cited something like a failure of disclosure at the point of purchase, that there wasn't enough transparency when people went and bought the game, which I've not really seen Steam do before, which I thought was quite interesting to note. My first question that I've got for you both: have you ever seen a game includes AI and then just be thought, well, clearly not in your case, Ratchet, because we've just talked about what game that you were playing, but SVD, are you quite against buying any games that are AI generated at all or include AI content?
It kind of depends. I'm willing to give it a shot. It just depends on how much and how it's used and how much there is of it, because otherwise it can just feel devoid of life. So for instance, when I did try out Tempest Rising, they used like AI voice generation for doing briefings, and it just felt really awkward. Now AI, but on the flip side, AI generated images for, let's say, your unit thumbnails when you go to, like, make units in an RTS game, I think is okay, because it's small, no one really notices it, and it's not going to really be distracting for me. But to do like all your mission briefings and AI generated voice, it feels lifeless. But at the same point in time, if someone were to come out with a game that had AI voice generation to make stuff feel more dynamic, I would be more open to it. But long story short, I'm not entirely opposed to it. It just depends on how it's used and how much.
Yeah, I'm somewhat the same as that, where if I think the difference is AI being used to assist, or is it being used as a crutch to keep your game up, I think is the difference for me. Are you so reliant on it that it's totally devoid of any creativity, or have you used it to maybe just fill in a few gaps? If it's been used to fill in a few gaps, I maybe got some patience for it, or if it's used in some creative ways, like with the game that me and Ratchet were talking about, which I see that you have just posted the game in our chat. Duo Q, that's what it was called, Duo Q. Stuff like that, at least it's like, it's a niche, well, not really a niche, but it's like, it's got a unique selling point of it's trying it in a bit of an inventive way that I'm willing, like, okay, I'll swallow the bullet and give it a go. Is swallow the bullet a term, or have I just made that up?
Bite the bullet.
Bite the bullet, that's bite the bullet. I'm going the extra mile, I'm swallowing the thing.
Well, you were probably thinking about swallowing a bitter pill.
Ah, that's it. Swallowing a bit of bill, and yes, I combine the two together. Okay, that's my mellowism of today.
My favorite part is that you said swallow a bit of bill.
Swallow. Oh, did I?
It sounded on my end like you said bill, not pill.
Bit of bill. So yeah, the public reaction was kind of very negative. I think they're still struggling to kind of do some damage control on this. They have put out a statement, I believe, apologising for the mess up, and they acknowledged that there was some AI content that they failed to disclose on the store page in the first instance. But yeah, there's obviously a large pool of people that aren't too keen about endorsing any AI work at all. And I mean, to be fair, I get some of the frustration with it, don't get me wrong, because, there's always this constant... I mean, I see it almost every day, these kinds of conversations where people are concerned about AI's implications on jobs, taking over, like, lower-end kind of jobs, or even high-end jobs. I mean, AI's been getting around to coding recently, but not very good coding, granted.
I think, especially talking about coding, with art, it's a little easier, and that's why I understand artists are incredibly annoyed by the fact that people are generating a ton of AI art. With programming, it's a little funnier for programmers to have experience, because you can use AI to help you learn. You can use it as kind of Google on steroids. The problem is, if you don't know what you're talking about, it can lie to you, and you can just do what it says without thinking. I think the more I see programmers or people who have just started to program using AI come into the field, the more I notice there's a lot of just really bad, janky code. Some like super unoptimized, really terrible code that just doesn't work properly. People get to generate websites for them, and the websites are like using like 5-year-old versions of WordPress, or like it gets them to install a really old version of Node.js, and they just don't think about like, I should probably get the latest. It's like, no, let's just get the one from 2018 that's full of vulnerabilities, which, like, yeah, not good. I think with art as well, the thing is, it's like, I think having, this is a little bit controversial, especially from where I come from, in the field I'm from, is I think using AI for placeholder, really basic art isn't terrible. Don't ship it with your game. But if you want to show a really rough version and you can't afford an artist, then do that. Because we hired an artist on, and she created a bunch of art for us, and we just use that where we can. We don't use any AI stuff, but for my own like thought processes, I go to Google Images as much as possible and try to use Google Images to find references for stuff when I want to like sell a concept. Same with like Google Earth. My last possible port of call will be AI, and it'll only be when I can't find something that matches what I want close enough that I can like use a program like Affinity to kit bash a bunch of images together that look horrible.
I was gonna broaden the conversation up a little bit, and talk about you kind of already went into that direction as well. Is using AI ethical? Because a lot of the discussions I've been seeing in the reviews of that game in particular, there seems to be a lot of anti-AI, like just full stop, no AI you should be in games at all sort of crowd. Because, you know, like some of the reasons I mentioned before, they're concerned about it putting people's jobs at risk. They think it's lazy, all that sort of stuff. Do you think that the use of AI by itself is ethical, or do you think it's much more so the disclosure element that should be focused on?
I think it's both. First of all, if you use AI in anything, you should clearly disclose it. I never plan on using AI in anything that I make. Anything that I publicly release or sell will not have AI in it. That doesn't mean I don't use AI. I have asked ChatGPT questions. I've done stuff with it. I'm not going to pretend I haven't used AI. I think at this point, all of us have, even just experimented.
I use AI to do spell checking and grammar on my Sentinels articles now.
See, there's cases where I think AI can be useful, and there's cases where I think it could not be useful, but like spell checking and stuff you can do with programs like Grammarly that use like not heavy LLM. The thing that gets me about stuff like ChatGPT and Claude and Google and Facebook's AI is that they're so heavy on the environment. It's like NFTs all over again, where my biggest concern about AI is that where there's an entire town in the United States that has like no water flow because Meta, Facebook, Oculus, whatever you want to call them, have opened up a giant data center exclusively for large language model AI that uses most that town's water to cool their systems and to to cool their systems essentially because they use a lot of water cooling, which is horrible to say the least. Like the fact that people in that town, just in this little town in the middle of nowhere, now have barely any like water pressure because Meta has decided to open up a data center in that little town. Stuff like that I'm not cool with. I think stuff like that is dystopian and kind of pushes us more towards cyberpunk, which again is another really weird thing, right? We talk about, kind of going off topic here, but we talk about and showcase like cyberpunk, RoboCop, Terminator, all these things that are like, yeah, if we don't treat this stuff properly, then we're going to have all these problems. We need to set hard limits on these things. And these weird tech bros are just like, nah, we have an unlimited. We're building data centers. We're, taking all the water. We're doing all this stuff. And then you look at like Cyberpunk's a really good example because there's a whole lake. There's a whole big lake in Cyberpunk that just like kind of doesn't really exist anymore because all the water got used. It's like 10, 15 years ago, we were talking about conserving water, especially in Australia. We're having like 2 to 4 minute showers to conserve water. And now we're building mega centers for AI language models and AI learning. What happened to conserving the water? Why are we now just pumping it through these massive computers just so I can ask it how to help me with my resume? Or I can ask it how, like, there's people using it as a therapist, which is wild. Why would you ever do that?
I've got a friend that's using ChatGPT as its therapist to help go through a breakup, he was explaining it to me. He even paid for it. He paid for, like, the chat, I forget what the upgraded model is, but, like, ChatGPT Plus or something like that. He paid for it just to fund his, like, to act as its therapist. He gave it commands, gave it cues, said what he wanted it to be to him. And yeah, and does it have some sort of feature now that it can be, you can hear it talk to you as well? Because I'm sure he mentioned something like that to me.
On the mobile phone, if you can open up and you can say words to it as well. It just uses old school speech to text, and then it feeds it into it, and then it responds to you. And there's a South Park episode on it, and that's the wild thing as well. Is this Matt and Trey got it so right, because all it does is say like, you're like, oh, I'm going through a breakup, I'm having such a rough time, is it my fault? And it's like, no, you're excellent, you're the greatest person ever. No, it's the other person's fault. And it's like, that's not therapy, that's not useful, it's literally just like gaslighting you. But it's you gaslighting yourself with this it's so dumb. It's
and you're so right, because like even when I've bounced ideas off of ChatGPT as well. Like, it's like, do you think this is a good idea? I've never heard it once say no, that's an awful idea. It's always this is a great idea with loads of potential. It's just that positive affirmation before it even gets into any detail. Even if it gives you a breakdown of some of the things that's wrong with it, and even if the negatives it lists outweigh the positives, it still says the idea is great. It's that positive affirmation, because no one likes to be told by something that it's wrong, because then you stop using it.
Yeah, and that's what blows my mind, is like the cases I have used it, I've had to say to it like, hey, do not put safety rails on. Don't put the, when you go bowling and you've got they put the bumpers up for the kids. Don't put bumpers up for me. Give it to me straight. I don't care. Like, I am happy to receive negative feedback. I work in an industry where we do code reviews and somebody tears your code apart. Like, give it to me straight. And it'll still just be like, I really like what you've done here. Here's all the negatives. Here's the one positive. Good job. And it's like, but there's like 300 negatives to one positive. Like, I think AI can be very useful for doing things like scientific research, like what they've shown with where they've just given it a bunch of data models, like over in China with that. I think it was the bone glue that allowed you to basically reset bones in minutes. I don't know if either of you have heard about that.
I haven't.
It's, from what I remember, I looked at it a couple of weeks ago now, but essentially what it is, it's like a material that you... Basically, if someone's bone's broken, you cut open their leg, put the material in, put 2 bones together, give it a couple of minutes, it sets back to, like, bone. It's like super glue for your bones. and then you just put the leg back together and they can just wander out like the leg had never broken. I could be wrong on this, it could be very different, but from what I remember, they used ChatGPT. They built a bunch of formulas and tested it on just bones they had, and then they fed all that information into a learning AI, because you can generate information to feed an AI. They're not just using ChatGPT, they'll have their local version. And they were like, here's all the information, just generate all these data models, run all of these different exercises and generate all these different versions and kind of tell us what you think is the best. And it did that, and they went and tested like the top 10 it had, and they found something from it. So in like those cases where it's like, okay, well, it uses the data we already have, which all AI uses, right? Like, this is why using AI as a therapist is so bad, is because it's just going to read what people on Reddit have said. Like on the Reddit therapy, r/therapy. It's like, do you really want armchair Redditor therapy? Because that's what ChatGPT is giving you. So it just reads that data, it processes it through and gives you a result. But it can only use the information provided to it, which for ChatGPT, as I've just said, is the internet, which is wild. That people are using the internet, essentially. It's like just typing into Google, like, why do I feel bad? it's wild. Sorry.
SVD, do you have anything to add on to anything we've discussed there?
My take is I've never used Chat GPT. Mainly because I don't want to get like potentially wrong information. And so like the most I've ever used is like the search engine AI, which did help me with like one of my curations for review bombs. And that's the most I would really ever go to trust it. Because I had asked it like what happened to this game in this time period with reviews. And it gave me these links to Reddit posts and articles. I'm like, perfect. This helps a lot. Because to use regular search, sometimes certain terms are more important than others, and I'll be like, no, I'm looking for what happened during like this range of time, and it just won't give me anything. It'll only give me new stuff. I'm like, that's not what I want. So it's helped me there. And that's about like the most I would trust it. And in other applications, like having AI like show you how to do something, like at least the basics of something, right? I could see it giving you examples. I could see that as being very beneficial and healthy. To have it to completely rely on it, like was it? I believe the term is like what, carte blanche. I don't think that's a good idea because it's the whole way that it works is that it's built on other things, and if those other things are wrong, it too will be wrong. I know that there was someone that used I believe ChatGPT to quote unquote analyze reviews of a Steam game to determine whether or not they were fake. That's not something I completely buy into. To say well, the game has fake reviews because the robot said so. Like, maybe I would then take a look at it, but I'm not going to be like, yeah, that's my proof.
Yeah, there was actually, you just mentioned there, and it reminded me. So I got a message this week from, it was actually someone in Big Fire's community. I think it was one of Big Fire's moderators who sent me this game on Steam, and it was priced at $100, which was already weird. But they sent me this game because, fair enough, because in terms of like inklings, it was like, okay, yeah, maybe there is something. They saw the game priced at $100. It was like a very simple 2D shooter game, indie. And they thought there's got to be something going on with this, because why are they pricing this at $100? It just doesn't make any sense. But I looked at the game and I'm like, there probably is something going on here, but there isn't anything too obvious. So what I did was I fed it into ChatGPT and I said, hey, I've been sent this game. I've been sent the store page. Do you see anything that raises any red flags? And then it came back with me and just said a lot of the basic stuff that I'd already kind of looked at myself and said, oh yes, the price is very high for a supposed indie game, and it looks like an asset flip game. But then it couldn't find anything else, even when I tried to look at stuff like support emails and any traces as to why it could be, where it could be getting sold off-site to. But there wasn't really anything getting flagged up. So I used it in kind of a similar way to what you mentioned, where it's like, can you even give me a little chain to follow on to, but I don't let it have the final say? Because I think especially when it comes to fake reviews, a lot of the stuff that we cover and how we detect review manipulation from happening isn't really something that's widespread or widely reported on. So the AI doesn't know to look in those areas for that kind of methodology. I'm not really totally sure what it looks at when you ask it to identify some review manipulation going on with a certain title, to be honest.
You need to have an eye for idiosyncrasies, is essentially what it is, because someone pointing out, well, look, it's got fake reviews. Look, there's a review over here that says game is good. And it's like, that may very well just be the typical Steam user that just put half a second into posting a review, because Steam will sometimes prompt you, hey, you've played a lot of hours in this game. Want to give it a review? And so some people are like, well, I don't see this, so yeah, game is good, the end, And for that to be misconstrued as like, it's fake because especially nowadays, the review manipulation from the reviews that are part of like a review manipulation tactic are often a lot more wordy because they're trying to seem genuine. A Steam user posting the recipe on how to make ice cream is not going to be part of some, AI. It's not going to be part of some review manipulation conspiracy scheme. It's going to be the ones that say, without saying anything for certain, where they just go, yes, and the plot was so engaging, and the gameplay, I was very thrilled with it, where they mention no specifics, right? Those are a lot more suspicious than someone writing game is good.
Yeah, I do worry that we're slowly sleepwalking into a culture and a society where people are just sacrificing their freedom of thought to
Yeah, because the
our
robot
AI
said
gods.
so.
Yeah, because the robot said so. It's like when people, I mean, we've had it sometimes in our server where people will come in and they'll say, look at this fact, it's true because Google said so, and then they like cite some InfoWars, Alex Jones-esque kind of
I'm waiting for like the
website.
Jesus Christ AI, where like that's gonna get used by all these churches and be like, look, this is really the power of God. He can't be wrong. And I look forward to the day when someone comes up with a prompt that completely just exposes that. Then, because people would buy that, right? Some church is gonna be like, hey, we've developed. Not even that we've developed, right? Because they have to make it seem divine. Oh, there is the power of Christ flows through our church page, and you can ask Christ, you can pray to him in this prompts, and he'll give you advice on it. Meanwhile, they're in the background just reading the prompts and laughing. Oh, Fred over there. Oh, he's having problem in the bedroom. This is hilarious.
So that happened over here in Australia. They did something I would argue is incredibly offensive towards veterans of war, where they went out of their way to make ChatGPT on their website act like a World War One vet and just talk to you as if it was explaining the war. The problem is you could re-prompt it and make it do anything. You could turn it into whatever you wanted, and they shut it down. But stuff like that,
into a mean high school teacher.
It's kind of fucked up. I'd rather you spend all of that money you're spending on this on like a VR experience that I can download on like the Meta, app store. Don't do AI. Go and do a virtual tour where you just use a 360 camera to record you walking through your thing and then sell it for $5 on Meta. I'd rather pay for that.
I do look forward to the day that we're going to get Robot Jesus dominating the headlines, though. That's going to be my highlight of the decade if that happens.
And the problem is that because of religion and faith, anyone that says anything that discerning, like, no, it's just an AI, shun the non-believer. He's a heretic.
I'm going to stop us there before I offend any Christian viewers or anyone that's religious out there. Okay.
Listen, I would want a Greek pantheon AI bot. I want to ask Thor on his thoughts on how best to prepare an entire chicken. All right, you could have dumb fun with this.
So, Loki, how do you think Trump's doing? I don't know what Trump is.
Let's end the episode there.
Loki, what's the best flavor of tea?
Okay, thank you very much, both of you, for joining me today. I've really, really enjoyed those discussions. I hope the people listening have too. I have settled on a title for the episode. I wrote it down while we were playing. I hope you've enjoyed episode 3, The Price of Play, today. Next week, we will be back. We will have more topics to discuss. If you have any topics that you want us to talk about, please do leave them in the comments here on YouTube, on Steam, on X, on Discord, on Blue Sky. If you're on Discord, please do tag us. Mine and SVD's social media, at the very least, will be in the descriptions below. And also, if you leave a comment and talk about what you think about the topics we've discussed today, you might get featured in a comment comeback. But again, on Discord, make sure to tag us, or feel free to just leave it in a comment here on YouTube, on our Steam discussions, or on our X or Blue Sky pages. Make sure to tag either us as individuals or the Steam Sentinels account as well.
I'm gonna have to
once
stop
again.
you there.
Okay.
I've just been told by our investors we're actually being replaced with ChatGPT due to this discussion.
Oh, damn.
So it's going to be Robot Us from now on out.
Well, that might be better. You never know.
I don't have to get up at 8 a.m. anymore.
Yeah, you don't. Well, you almost had to get up at 7 a.m. today.
True.
For context, I sent Ratchet a message. So he had to bail early for last week's episode because he had an appointment on. So I messaged him the time that me and SVD had agreed to. And I used like a Discord time converter thing to send it to these guys because obviously Ratchet's Australia and SVD's America. I'm in the UK. So I can't keep tabs on where everyone's time zones are. So I sent the message to him and he was like, yeah, cool. That sounds fine. Then I sent a message like 1-2 days ago and he was like, wait, what? Why am I getting up at 7 in the morning? I'm like, you said yes to this. I'm like, no, I didn't. Oh, yes, I did.
To be fair, the appointment was the gym, and you messaged me in the middle of being at the gym. So
I think that's a dumb excuse.
That's a good excuse. You go to the
excuse.
gym.
Yeah, I when I've gone to the gym, I've not been in a daze of like, oh yeah, I'll agree to do that at 7 in the morning and not look at the time.
I was.
Okay. Be sure to join our Steam group. Link to our link tree is in the description. Link to our Discord server as well, because for some reason Linktree doesn't allow you to embed Discord server links at the moment. Shout out to our Patreon members, Stefan, Old Navy, Twidget, Luke, and others. If you want to donate to us on Patreon, that would be much, much appreciated. Then I can maybe start paying these guys as well on top, even better. Thank you both once again for joining us. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and share, please, as well, if you can. And until next week, cheerio.